What I want to tell you about today is the Conklin AgroVantage system and the Yield Champions. Who are those brands? Well, Conklin Company has been in business for over 50 years. They're based out of Shakopee, Minnesota, southwestern suburb of Minneapolis. We have our sales offices and training centers down in Kansas City, Missouri. I got started with the Conklin Company when I was going into grad school back in 1974. And Ben Welch had talked to my dad about using some of the products in our farming operation. My dad was smart enough to tell me, you ought to check out this Conklin Company. Well, I was going into grad school thinking ag extension is a possibility. And both Patty and I had grown up on farms in Fillmore County, and we were thinking that maybe county extension work, things like that, might be a good fit for me. I don't think it would have been. I always tell my kids, some of us are just unemployable, and so you're probably better off not having a boss. And so what happened was, as I was going into grad school, I talked to Ben and I said, you know, my dad's been using some products from the Conklin Company, really speaks highly of them. Tell me about the opportunities. And so I got started as a part-time distributor back in 1974 and basically finished up grad school and have been full-time with the Conklin Company ever since. So I tell people after 47 years, I'm probably just going to make a career out of this, David. You know, so that's kind of where we are and kind of where I've come from. Conklin Company today has 6 different product divisions, but the 2 divisions that make up the bulk of our business, probably 80–90%, is our AgroVantage system, which we're going to be talking about today, and then Conklin has a large division dedicated to industrial coatings and specifically commercial roofing systems. But our ag division is what I've primarily worked with over the years. And so I'm going to give you a little familiarity for those of you that aren't real familiar with who Conklin and what our products are. Yield Champions is our brand for our company, and it's one that basically gives us the opportunity to deal with farmers and advise them on a lot of different options. But it also is a term that has been closely related to the Conklin AgroVantage system of products, which is mainly what I'm going to talk about. And the AgroVantage system is being used by about 50% of all the NCGA state and national yield winners every year. And so it's kind of been a name that's kind of been associated with us for several years. So under this umbrella that we call Yield Champions or AgroVantage, we really have 3 different subgrouping of products. We have a line of wetting agents. The original product that's interesting that Conklin came out with in our ag division was our Wex product. And Wex was introduced in the early 70s. It is still a huge seller for us. So you talk about a shelf life of a brand or a product. It's just amazing the results we get. And honestly, it's probably one of the most undersold. My dad was buying Wex, which was a 40% active ingredient wetting agent with anti-foam, and it had the ability to keep wettable powders in suspension. Back in those days, we used a lot of wettable powder atrazine, and it really eliminated the foam, eliminated settling out in tanks. Aerial applicators loved it. We have other more concentrated wetting agents today, but that product was a product my dad was buying from the local co-op at the time, getting it from Conklin. But we have a full line of wetting agents, compatibility agents, pH control agents, drift retardants, basically anything and everything you can put with herbicides, insecticides, and pesticides to make them more effective. We've got our biologicals, and when we talk about biologicals, we're not talking about trying inoculants per se, but we're talking about seed treatments. Amplify DNL are probably what we're best known for in this area. And then that product you can use as a seed treatment on virtually any crop other than soybeans. For soybeans, we have a product called Magnify LST, which is a liquid seed inoculant to get the rhizobium started, and so that you get enhanced nodulation early on in the plant's life. In addition, we have plant growth regulators, 3 specific products. We have a product called Excito, foliar, and soil. It's a plant cytokinin. We also have a product called Intensify that's newer, and Syntos is a product that kind of fits in this area. It's an ag sugar to be added in furrow or in a foliar application. And in addition, we've actually developed another product called Kip Colors Nutrient Compass. And both the Intensify and the Nutrient Compass were products that Kip Colors developed in South America over a period of about 15 years. In our fertilizer products, what I'm quick to tell people what we don't handle. We don't handle bulk, dry fertilizers. We don't handle commodities like UAN and things like anhydrous, obviously. We deal in more of a specialty fertilizer line. Our products were really developed for 2 purposes: in furrow with the seed at the time of planting, or foliar applied over the top of a growing crop without plant injury. And so that's the big application for those. We have a full line of micronutrients. And in addition, a key product I'll talk more about in this presentation is Guardian. Guardian is a DCD product. It's a slow-releasing form of nitrogen that you add to liquid nitrogen or liquid manures to get them to slow release over the growing season so you don't lose them to leaching and denitrification. We have two very, very specific goals in everything that we do. And I always tell people, I'm going to tell you about just a handful of the AgroVantage products today. But I would tell you this, there are many, many, many products that we test that you'll never see you'll never hear about. Because one of the things we really go for is products that have high replicatable results every year. You can't afford to make a change in your operation unless it's something that's proven and it's significant. And that's the kind of the theme that we have. We can't afford to even talk to you about products if it's going to be something that's going to, give you results 1 year out of 3, or it's something that's going to be marginal return on dollar invested. So everything we look for is designed to either reduce your input costs on a per acre and a per bushel basis, and I'll show you some examples of that from this year, and at the very same time increase yields. And while we have formulas for any crop you can mention, from cucumbers to tobacco, turnips and corn and soybeans, wheat and alfalfa really amount to about 80% of that business for sure. We begin everything with a soil analysis, and that's one of the main reasons that we bring in a guy like Corey Oberlander, is because he is a fertility and a soil science expert, and this is the niche that we're going to be talking about in his program today. But soil analysis, an accurate soil analysis of what you've got out there in your soil to start with, and both the biological activity as well as the NPK and all the micros that are there, what you're lacking, and what are the determining factors, what are the limiting factors in your yield. I always tell people there's 3 steps to a good soil test. One is you or somebody you trust is out there getting a very accurate representative sample to be sent into the lab. Second thing is the lab itself runs an analysis. We work with Midwest Labs in Omaha. The only lab test we ever run with them is a full test. Everything that you can possibly test in their system is what's on that sheet. That's the second piece, is their analysis, their accurate analysis. And the third is the recommendations. Conklin has a software package that dovetails with Midwest Labs so that we can make specific recommendations, because we know the recoverability and the raw materials and the form that these fertilizer materials are in, so that we can give a great recommendation that will give you a roadmap, a recipe to go by. Kip Colors from Purdy, Missouri, southwest Missouri, has been a 3-time world record holder of soybean yields, and his top yields were 160.6. And Kip has spent lots of time, both in South America and other places, advising growers, especially on soybeans, but also on corn and other crops. He's got 23,000 acres down there in Missouri. And I talked to Kip today, and I said, so what products do you use on every acre? And he said, well, there's 4 of them that I use from Conklin. He says, Wex goes on every single acre of our farm every year. We put on 1 quart per acre at pre-plant, pre-emerge. He says we use Amplify D and L. Those are our seed treatments, and of course on Magnify would be the application on soybeans. He says Feast Manganese at 1 pint to 2 pints an acre in furrow and foliar applications is the lowest hanging fruit, in his words. It is the stuff that'll give you the highest return per dollar spent of anything that he's used. And then he says my super juice. Well, what he means by super juice is Kip Colors Nutrient Compass Foliar Fertilizer. That's what we call it. It's a material that he developed to go in. It was really designed to go in with glyphosate. What we've found is whenever we use glyphosate, we tend to tie up manganese, and so that's one of the main reasons why this is so important. But the Nutrient Compass is more of a plant growth regulator. We put a quart of it in when we're spraying any post-emerge herbicide. And the thing that I point out to guys is the average cost on a retail basis of those 4 products, if you were to use that on every acre, would be maybe $25, significantly less if you're buying in quantity, early discounts, so forth. But at a response of 10 to 20 bushel an acre, huge payback on those 4 products. So Wex is a product, again, that it was developed originally as a wetting agent, compatibility agent, pH, something that would really go into all your chemical spraying. We have more concentrated wetting agents today, but this product, what we found was it really has some very positive effects on your soil structure. We actually have guys that put it through their center pivots. It improves the absorption of that water, and there's less evaporative loss. But the Wex product, we've found that at 1 quart per acre, it will significantly improve yields. In fact, on corn plots, over 2,400 corn plots, we've shown an average of right at 8 bushels per acre yield improvement. And at a cost of, depending on how you buy it, again, $5 to $7 an acre. This product is one of 5 that have now gone through the rigorous testing of Beck's on-farm research, what they call a Beck's proven product that they recommend all their growers that they sell seed to use that product. This is the second product that they have that's in their approved list. What they call Beck's proven is our Amplify. And Amplify is a really simple product. It was developed at the Land-Grant College in Arizona. Originally, they developed it for cotton seed because cotton has a lot of problems with cold, wet, stress, germination issues. But when we got the exclusive marketing rights to this product, we agreed to do additional testing for other crops. And so we've got it tested now on a variety of different crops. It basically, again, it can be used on anything other than soybeans. We just don't get the same kind of response. The Amplify D is a dry material. It's a talc carrier. So if you have a planter that calls for some talc, this will replace an equal volume of talc. You'd put this 2.5 pound container would take care of 25 bags, 25 units. The Amplify L is a product that you would liquefy this 1 pound of material with 1 gallon to 1.5 gallons of hot water, put it through a liquid seed treater if you had access to that. And a lot of our seed dealers will apply this for their customers. And this product here gives you more uniform coverage of the seed. That's the main difference here. We get a little bit higher response with Amplify L, but it's the same mode of action. Here's how it works. Within the seed, every seed, you've got a source of energy. And that source of energy is adenosine monophosphate, AMP. And AMP, during the germination process, changes to ADP, adenosine diphosphate, and then adenosine triphosphate. This is called the Krebs cycle. I didn't sleep through all my chemistry classes or biology, but that's basically the concept that fuels germination. Well, what we do is we coat this seed with an additional source of adenosine monophosphate. So as that seed swells, draws in moisture, it brings in this additional source of energy, and so we double or triple the amount of energy. So those borderline seeds that may poke through will come up. So we'll see anywhere from a few hundred to 1,000 or 2,000 more plants per acre, depending on the stress conditions that you've got at germination time. And so this is how the product worked. And we find that in the lab, if they run a lab germ test on your corn seed and they say you got 97% germ, that means 3% of those seeds are dead. We're not going to do anything for those. But those marginal seeds that might have been a little weaker germ now get a boost. And so what we end up with is more plants like this and fewer of these. And that's exactly what we're looking for. This plant over here is no longer a corn plant. It's really a weed that you can't kill, right? And so what we're trying to do is eliminate and make uniformity of plant stands. And that's one of the main reasons why if you read farm magazines, Conklin doesn't do any national advertising. But if you read farm magazines and you read stories about Kip Cullers or Jerry Cox or people like that, and they mention products, they'll often mention Amplify D because it's one that they really swear by because of the uniformity of plant stand. So any kind of stresses that you've got out there in the field are going to make this product's going to help. It's what I call corn germination insurance because you're looking for uniformity of plant stand, uniformity of emergence. Number 3 product that Kip uses is the manganese, and this goes back to Dr. Don Huber from plant pathologist at Purdue, who discovered that when we applied glyphosate, we were getting sometimes yellow flash, which was basically reflecting an inefficiency of the plant during that stress period after application, and its inability to pull up enough manganese. And so manganese is really the key limiting factor when that happens. So what we found is over the years, though, because of extensive use of glyphosate for so many years, we've had a lot of tie-up in our soils of the manganese, and this product is something that will help offset that. Putting a pint of manganese in furrow, and certainly with any kind of chemical application, really helps remove or significantly reduce that yield drag potential. His last product here we talked about it's a newer product. It's been available with Conklin, and I can tell you this: every person that I've had that's used this product now uses it on virtually every acre that they're farming. But it's a product that we put a quart in with that, and what it does, it's a plant growth regulator. It stimulates the growth and additional leaf surface. Surface area is what big thing we're looking for. Here's probably the best single set of data that I've got from Nebraska. This was done by an independent third-party agronomy group, and they tested 32 hybrids, 3 replications each. Multiple companies were represented in that, and the yield improvements range from 2 to 27 bushels per acre. 1 quart of nutrient compass foliar fertilizer was applied, and that was applied at V5, and the average over all those 32 was 12 bushel. Basically, the cost of the nutrient compass is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of, on the high end at retail, probably $10 an acre. On the low end, probably somewhere around 8. Guardian DL is a product I want to mention today because we've got a lot of issues right now with fertilizer availability and pricing. I don't know if you've noticed that, but if you're in the nitrogen market, you know that we've got record high prices, and availability is very, very limited. Some people won't even take orders for that. But Guardian DL is a product. We originally brought Guardian over as a product from West Germany. It was a product, the technical name is DCD, diacyan diamide, and it basically is a nitrogen source that when it's added to your nitrogen, it creates a slow releasing form of nitrogen. It significantly reduces leaching and denitrification. I try not to say eliminate, but it almost eliminates leaching and denitrification. It does not do anything for volatilization. So if you're knifing in or side dressing, it's a great product to use. And it is probably the product of choice. Corey will talk about some of his work at NDSU with DCD specifically. But here's the big thing. Today, with our nitrogen prices, right now, I'm hearing guys paying $650 to $680 a ton for liquid N, UAN, and you would put 2 quarts of this product in there. If you would reduce that liquid N rate by 3 gallons, 4 gallons, you'd way more than pay for the Guardian at current prices. Guardian DL is the product that we're going to have available for this coming year. We have a product called Guardian L that can actually be used with anhydrous as well, but it is not going to be available because of raw material limits. Here's basically what we see, and I think we got reams of data on this product, but this is probably the best single slide I could show you. 4 years of testing at the University of Minnesota. You see that down here, where they used a 125-pound rate of nitrogen with and without Guardian. There was a 13 bushel yield boost. Where they went to 150-pound rates, there was a 17 bushel yield boost. But here's the thing. I want you to compare these middle two. If you reduced your nitrogen rate by 25 pounds and added Guardian, you'd still see somewhere in the neighborhood of a 4 bushel yield response. And again, this is 4 years of testing at a land-grant college. But this is very representative of what we've seen at all the different land-grant colleges that have been testing this product. Syntos is a relatively new product. What we found is with virtually all the NCJ yield guys, they're all using some kind of sugar in furrow typically, just to stimulate the existing microbial activity down there in that root zone. And this product is our entrance into that market, specifically formulated for ag uses. And what you've got in here in Syntos is totes of liquid sugar that you can put in furrow or on foliar applications, pint to 2 pints per acre. And very, very reasonably priced. I was just pricing out for a guy with 5,000 acres this morning, and it was figured out to like $2 an acre. So, I mean, it's very reasonably cost. Here's a set of data from Beck's Seed. They don't have a full 3 years of testing yet on this product, but here was their test, and every one of the ag sugars that they tested showed a lower return than they got with Syntos. They actually saw a 2.9 bushel yield response just from Syntos. I wouldn't count on that. I think that Syntos is one piece. What you'll hear Corey talking about is fertility is the foundation for everything we do. I mean, you're not going to add a pint of Syntos and predictably show those kind of yield results every year. But the fertility has to be there to start with. Intensify was a product, actually, take you back, Kip Colors, I said, created the Nutrient Compass product in Brazil over a period of about 15 years. The product down there that they have combines Intensify and Nutrient Compass into one product. We can't do that here because of some of our regulations for transport and so forth, but this is a granular product that'll mix with water or fertilizers. It is a plant growth regulator. If you want to see a quick 2-minute video that explains this whole thing, go to intensifymycrop.com. Intensifymycrop.com has a 2-minute video that Kip Colors explains exactly what's in this product, how it works. But on corn and beans, here's what our average yield results nationwide have been. 6.2 bushel on corn, 4 bushel almost on beans, and we're talking a cost of somewhere on the retail end is $7, maximum you'd ever pay for it. Could be significantly less depending on how you buy it. Okay, I'm going to wrap up here with just some examples from this year, things that guys are seeing in the field. Todd Hoffman and I have done a lot of meetings together. Todd's from Juniata, Nebraska. If you go to Hastings, Nebraska, and you're on the southwest corner of town and you head out on the highway, 6 miles is where Todd's farm is. And their operation consists of about 800 acres of corn, 800 acres of beans. They do a little custom harvest work as well. But he's gotten back into popcorn. Years ago, they raised a lot of popcorn. He's gotten back into that this year, and they're going to be doing a lot more next year. He's just amazed at how the AgroVantage system has worked. But he's been using the program since '07. So one of the key things that Todd explains to people is it's a gradual process of working the system. You all have a successful system or you wouldn't be farming. But what we can do is we can find ways to improve that system over time, and that's exactly what he's tried to do. This year he raised 7,500 pounds of popcorn per acre, and the company called him and they said, what are you guys doing? Because I have never seen ears as big as his popcorn ears. He's got a bunch more acres set aside for popcorn next year. Here's one of the things that Todd shared with me one day, and I said, we got to put that side by side. What he'd done is back in 2018, he showed these to me. In 2011, this is his soil test, and in 2018. So they're talking the same place in the field, same field, everything. And I've got a slide here that'll show it better. The big things that we saw change over those years is his pH went from 5.9 to 6.5. His organic matter went from 1.8 to 2.3. And his CECs went from 14.2 to 14.7. And so the soil characteristics are one of the big things. Now I think there's two things that we got to recognize about our whole program, just in generalizations, is number one, what we're seeing is improvement in soil characteristics based on using softer chemistry. I think anytime you're going to use heavy herbicide, anhydrous, a lot of other things that you can do to kill the bacteria in your soil and do things to take it the other direction. The other thing that we're seeing is that when we use products like Wex and Amplify, we get larger root mass. Well, if you can add root mass, what's that going to do for your organic matter? I mean, it's going to improve those kind of things. And so it's softer chemistry, but it's also the types of products that we're using that really have an impact on that over time. Here's something that's kind of interesting. His yield goals, as we compared, went from 235 to 275. Now, obviously, some of that is genetics. There's improvement in genetics every year. Your seedsmen are doing a great job. But the big thing that Todd showed me from this year is that his farm average yield this year was 293, including all the dryland corners and everything. He had 3 fields that averaged over 300 bushel per acre, but this is what excited him more than anything. He'd reduced his input cost by $65 an acre. And across their bushels, that figured out to a 22-cent a bushel difference in cost of production. This year, we know, with the fertilizer prices what they are, that we're going to have some very significant, and if you watch some of the early slides that Corey's going to go through, Corey will show you what's happened over the years, and you guys all have lived with it, so you know what's happened to fertilizer cost on a per acre basis. This year is going to be a bigger challenge than probably we've ever seen. Justin Dahlgren's here from Bertrand. Justin, come on up here. I want to have you share just a little bit about just share a little bit about your operation and then when you're ready, I'll flip it
Okay.
to this year's results. Stand right here.
Okay, basically we have a farm feedlot and we run a lot of grass cattle out in Bertrand, Nebraska. We farm right around 8,000 acres. Of that, probably 6,000 of it will be irrigated, maybe a little more than that actually. Pretty much everything that we grow goes through the feedlot. That's our operation pretty simply. We started with Conklin back in 2015 was the first. We dabbled in 2014, just to see if it was a few tests. Really kind of started in 2015 and then kind of brings us to today. So in 2014 we broke our record yield ever. And that year we had like 243 bushel farm average. Last year it's pretty clear we did 278, almost 279, and that's on over 5,000 acres of irrigated corn. That includes the dryland corners, everything. That's straight through. 87 bushel beans, and I think our beans were kind of crappy. To tell you the honest truth, we left a lot of money on the table there. We've used the system, we've grown more and more. It's pretty simple to see that if you want to improve yield and you want to improve your profitability, to focus on plant health. We started looking at profitability pretty heavily, and it's really evident to us every time we spend dollars to try and improve the nutritional health of that plant, we get the money back. Even if it's not quite that year, we get it back. We'll test products like Nutrient Compass, Wex all the time, but if we have a tissue test that say we need manganese, boron, you name it, we don't hesitate, and we always get a return every single time. Balance is key. Conklin's taught us that. That Liebig's barrel is really true. If you haven't studied that, I'd tell you to Google that. Liebig's barrel and a molder's chart.
Very good. Thanks, Justin. Let's give him a hand. Justin will be around to answer some questions maybe over lunch. I want to share with you the number one thing I recommend anybody do before they even place orders with us typically is get to the Conklin ProAg 1 program. The ProAg 1 program is a 2-day crop production intensive, and I can see I get the same response from people all the time, especially young farmers. They come into that program, they go to the ProAg 1, and they come out of there and they say, I learned more here in 2 days than I did in 4 years at a land-grant school studying agronomy. And I explained to them, I said, well, number one, you need to understand this is applied agronomy. This is bottom line stuff. This is talking about what are the things that work, that are proven, and you're probably in a place mentally where you're thinking about crop production a lot more focused than you were back when you were in college. You probably had other things on your mind. And so that's the ProAg 1 program is a great program. It's put together by Dennis Damon. He's been sponsoring those for a number of years. Dennis's wife has been fighting pancreatic cancer for the last 2 years. And so we've developed a team of guys that have taken his materials and they present that. And we've got about 25 programs coming up this year. And I'll give you some dates of the ones that are coming up, but it is well worth the time to spend. And most of my growers will go in at least once a year, if not twice or more. Todd Hoffman, when I asked him the other day, he said, well, I go in at least twice a year. And so during the winter months, typically from about the 1st of November, depends on how harvest goes, but the 1st of November to about the middle of March, we'll run these programs. The ones that are coming up in the near future here is Sioux City, Nebraska. We actually are going to have 6 programs in Nebraska this year, but Sioux City is our first one, December 5th and 6th. Kearney, Nebraska is a week or so later, 13th and 14th. Then in Scotts Bluff, we'll be out there January 3rd and 4th, and in North Platte, January 24 and 25. Conklin has a program called, they work with John Deere Financial, so if you work with them, right now we can lock in financing at 1% below prime. Prime is at 3.25. That makes your interest rate 2.25. Now that could change if prime changes, but you're basically, with the special terms agreement with John Deere, you're good till December of next year if you want to carry it that long. We have a DVD that we've put out thousands of copies of. Now we don't mess with DVDs usually. Usually we just send you a link and you can click a button and you can watch it on your computer or your phone. But if you go to, in fact, I'll give you the address here. YieldChampions.com is basically is where we post our events. But 300bushelcorn.info is our YouTube channel, and we got about 100 videos on there. I've got interviews with Corey, I've got interviews with Todd Hoffman and Justin and other people. And so that's the place to go to if you want to watch some of those videos. But the Jerry Cox video is entitled Breaking the 300 Bushel Corn Yield Barrier, and he walks through the specific things he's done over the years, and he's been with us a little longer than Todd has. He's been able to raise his farm average as well as his competition yields by over 100 bushel an acre. And again, he gives credit to the seedsman for the genetic improvements there, but there's also some very significant results that he sees due to the Conklin AgroVantage system that he uses. So with that, I'm going to wrap things up here, and I'm going to invite up Corey Oberlander. And as Corey's getting his unit set up to show you some slides, I'll tell you just a little bit about how I came in contact with Corey. Is Ben Welch was down in Kansas City at a Conklin program one time, and Corey was there with some people, and Corey sat down and related to him what he'd seen in fields from some of his growers that have been using some of our AgroVantage system products. And so Ben shot a little video, and we've got that on that 300bushelcorn.info YouTube channel. And so that's how I first heard. I saw Corey long before I met Corey. But I can tell you this, he and I put on thousands of miles together. We've traveled from, all over the Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, even over into Colorado, I think. And I've sat through his presentation at least 40 times. I've got 38 pages of typed notes. And I would tell you, if you don't have some paper, David, if you got any paper over there, pull out a notepad. I've got plenty of pens. You're going to want to take some notes, and you'll learn things from Corey that you've probably never heard from other people. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Corey. I'll let you go ahead and wire up here too.
I might just use the hand.
Oh, okay, sure. That's fine.